Well, because losing out money, you got to take drugs. You're going through so much shit to try and deal with life. You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far. You know, who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what Heath had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. You know, but when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it. A man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. Like if a woman gives up her womanly right of being a mother and taking care of her family and do all those things. When you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from. So maintain your man card, no matter what.
Man, I mean, you know, one of the things you're seeing, you went to a whole different place.
Sorry.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. You need therapy. And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that
Wow.
When he said that, the first thing that came to my mind was they are going against God's design for not only their bodies, but their lives.
Yeah.
And they have been part of an evil, and an evil is not a person or thing. Let's just really get that. It is a corruption of a person or thing. So they have been corrupted so much that they lose it. They lose it. That's basically what he was saying. What are your thoughts on that, Michelle?
I mean, he mentioned a lot of actors from the past. I think in that segment, he had mentioned Heath Ledger and others. And I wanted to think about the difference between giving up your man card and having it stolen from you, because some of them were child actors that had it taken from them. And so I think they live with a different type of haunting. And that's what I see in Justin Bieber, like our last podcast when we saw that clip. It wasn't just that he gave that card. It was stolen from him as a child. And this is what's happening and has happened in Hollywood and the music industry. And he goes on, he talks about how because he wouldn't give that up. I love that he says, are you saying what I think you're saying? He said, no, I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm not trying to mince words. He was just trying to use etiquette for the show, I suppose, and saying, when you give that, you can't take it back. And then how many times did they give that away over and over because they compromised? And in life, we have to just really realize we can't keep signing these contracts with the devil, because there are demonic entities that you are signing your life over. And we're not even talking about some of these people are physically sacrificing human beings, like sacrificing other things. There's a whole kind of level of sacrifice in this Hollywood music industry. But we're talking about they're sacrificing their bodies. They're giving that up to other men in this instance, specifically to other men. And you can't unsee, undo, unlive that experience. And how do you get it back? You're right. You struggle with it for the rest of your life. And there's a place for forgiveness, but a lot of them cannot forgive themselves. And if somebody doesn't get Christ to them and introduce them to Christ and show them how they can, ask for that forgiveness so they don't have to do that, that the sins are wiped clean, that they don't have to be a part of that, and then teach them to forgive themselves, we're going to keep seeing people unalive themselves or overdose. Yeah, and it's sad and it's scary, but it's happening still. This is not stopped. Putting away one predator did not stop the 35 to 200 that he had in his home. Where are the other ones?
Yeah, you are exactly right. And I feel so sorry for the child actresses that have gone through these, and it's and we know that they do ritualistic. These are ritualistic things. Mm-hmm. This is the occult. This is the Antichrist. These are people with an agenda to ritualize sexual deviancy. That's what it is. To children. Not a lot. We're not even talking about the adults yet. But as he said, the Bible talks about, again, sin is sin, but to sin against your body, that the Bible does designate, it does single out that particular sin. That is a major sin. And when you couple that with this ritualistic aspect of what they're doing in Hollywood to children with the abortion, to just the ritualistic parts of it, it's something else. It's really something else. And this is why we're seeing, as you said, Michelle, people, trying to cover it and with drugs and alcohol. They're trying to use that as some type of way to either forget it or to what's the word?
They're just trying to cope.
Right. Cope. But one thing I will disagree with him is they are not, it's not over for them, because we know that we serve a God that can do all things, and God has conquered evil and continues to conquer evil through his Holy Spirit. So these people they need to get out of there, get out of that space, get out of the way from those demons, demonic people, and choose Christ, choose God as best they can. And we need to pray for them. We need to pray for them and try to get out of it. They can get out of it with the help of God. But they have to seek him and remove all of the people that mean them harm, remove them from their lives. And I know that's probably very difficult for them to do.
That's the hardest, because again, when we say ritualistic, we're going to sodomize you and you are going to be in a contract with us. And this contract, this is actually a physical representation of signing your soul to the devil. You were saying, I'm going to allow these evil things to be done, and you are going to give me money and fame, and you're going to have a contract where I can't make my money on my own because you own part of that. So some of them are giving up their livelihoods, and I know Wendy called it out there, and some others already know. We got Cat Williams and even Terrence Howard. He was like, look, I was having to do what do they call them? The minstrel shows. Like, he's still not able to be cast the way he wants to because he's not going to give up that card. And that's what's going to happen to the ones in Hollywood. They're going to, Cat Williams for a long time, people thought he was crazy. And I saw so much stuff. I was like, he just told the truth. Wendy Williams was calling that out years ago. There are rap artists that were calling it out in their music. I had to go back and listen to some 80s, 90s. I was listening to some songs and I thought, I never paid attention to those lyrics calling out exactly what's happening now. Right. And so they have to untangle themselves from physical contracts, not only the spiritual contract that they signed. And it's the spiritual contract that God can cancel, can change, and working out the rest. So again, we got to keep praying for them. And I'm just praying that God will send people to their aid, because that is a very dark place. And those dreams and nightmares have got to be vivid, and they replay. So
yeah, it is. It is. And he was not finished. So now in this next clip, he talks about Diddy. So take a listen to this, what he talks about his encounter with Diddy. This is clip 2.
What was the
Hell
consequences
yeah.
when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you like, or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept. So always be the man in the room. And that's always been my whole thing, and have lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play gay roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that shit because the man card means everything.
Wow. So let's unpack that. So what are your thoughts on that, Michelle? Particularly, well, first about the Diddy stuff. Do you believe what he was saying about that?
100%. There are too many stories and too many men and women that have come out and talked about Diddy and others that's what they do. That was that was what they did. It's just hearing it now, and everybody should know it's truth. Innocent till proven guilty in court, but the evidence doesn't lie. And there's just too many video recordings, and there was too many witnesses. And that was his biggest problem. He wanted to have his parties big and grand. And like you said, it's a cult. So they were bringing that in and everybody was there. So it's really too hard to silence hundreds of people that have been there. But yeah, that's, of course, I do believe that. And I'm glad that he walked away. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. He's right. There is a difference between a man who is confident in his manhood. He's not going to act the same or react the same as a guy. Or as somebody who has something to gain if he gives up a little piece of himself. And he doesn't go that way. So good on him. And I'm glad he made it plain. There was nothing left to the imagination.
Right. Now, the second part he said about about acting. So I know Allie just put in here, she said, well, good for him, because even Denzel Washington sold and kissed a man and he calls himself a Christian. So I want to get your thoughts on that. Because you have background, you've trained actors, you've acted in the past. Do you think it's too far for someone who is Christian to play a role that is, a homosexual role, or something like that?
I think that's a challenge. It's a challenge every time I would read a script.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on where you are. So I won't speak to when he took that role, because I know as a Christian, I've evolved. There are so many things I've done that I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, the videotapes or the camcorders or I'm so grateful I'm not in the Instagram generation that my children are, but I was like, y'all got to watch what you do, because 90s, we were acting a fool out in the fields and all. So I want to tread lightly on where you're at as a Christian and your beliefs, because again, we're supposed to have a regular relationship, and as you grow in your relationship with Christ, you're able to turn away from those things that you know and recognize as sin. And so yes, now if he were to do it right now, yesterday, tomorrow, and say, okay, I'm going to take on this role, I would say, yeah, you're not.
Well, he did. That was the bizarre thing about it. He just did it. So all these years, Denzel Washington has been, he's always been one of my favorite actors. I think he's brilliant. He's a brilliant actor. He never kissed a man. He never did. And this recent role that he did, where he played in the sequel to Gladiator, he kissed a guy. he played he played a gay character. So it was just like, it was very strange. Now, it wasn't like overtly, sexual or anything like that, but he did. It was this character was not one that he's played in the past. It was very different.
I watched the movie. To me, I didn't relate to the two. I understand the comment, and yes, from a Christian perspective, you've got to set those boundaries. It's really tough when you're in. Again, I'm going to say it's really tough when you're in that industry to be able to. And we know those actors that have, and there are actors that, Kirk Cameron, for instance, that will not kiss another person that is not their spouse.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Okay. That will not kiss people that are not their spouses. They will not do those love scenes, like a kiss on the lips. There are the lines that they draw for performance.
Yeah, I know it would be tough for in the past, I've done a lot of theater, some movies, and I've done not same sex, but I have, done romantic, scenes and things like that. But I do understand the idea of it's not real. It's all, movies, and you're in front of lights and cameras, and people are telling you to see certain ways and this and that. So I don't know, but I know I wouldn't do a same-sex role. I wouldn't do that. But like you mentioned, this Hollywood, I think the whole Hollywood now is just it's demonic. It's too much. I think maybe 8% probably are not. And when I say Hollywood, I mean mainstream Hollywood. You do have some people who are acting, but it's not, they're doing like they're not like these huge celebrities that we see. Yeah. But most of mainstream Hollywood is just wicked to me, just wicked. And no place for children. I definitely agree with that. And I think that no place for children, unfortunately. And it was something that, I always wanted to do. I did. But now when I look back on it, I think, well, maybe that's why God kept me out of it, because it's just so wicked.
I've worked with children and taught and talked to parents and getting them into the industry. And I had to make the tough choice where some of my kids wanted it. And here I am owning a theater production company and having access and knowing the industry. And I didn't allow them to do it. I didn't even allow them to be in modeling. And I'm glad now that I didn't, because it's seeing everything. And I'm glad my mom did not allow me in Southern California to go into that Disney route or Nickelodeon route. And a lot of my friends were right there. We could have been extras. We lived down the street. My mom did that. And I'm glad that it didn't happen, because I can only imagine what I could have gone through. So yeah, God spared me for a reason. And again, that entire industry has got to be taken back, because let me just be clear, the arts and music are God's. Those belong to God. And so Satan has defiled it. He has done everything with it, and he has claimed ownership to it, but it is not his. We've allowed it to go this far, but God can take that back. And we as Christians, those of us who stand up and do something about it, we can take that industry back. We're just so reliant on the big money makers, and that, not enough people see our films. We have to do it anyways.
Exactly. I 100% agree with that.